if I start my day with meetings, I'm no good. I'm like the worst person to hang around with.
Welcome to Playbook Broken.
Welcome to Playbook Broken, the show where we interrogate what's no longer working in marketing and sales, and we get real about what might work next. Today's guest is someone who is not just watching the old go-to-market models crumble, he's actively lighting the match. Sangram Vajre is the co-founder of Terminus, GTM Partners, and a sharp, unapologetic voice in the modern GTM movement. He believes the funnel is dead, SaaS is transforming into services software, and if you're still aligning sales and marketing with meetings instead of metrics, you have already lost. Sangram, welcome to the show.
I love that intro, man. That's so good. It's so interesting. Like, I think both of us, and I'm sure people who are listening to this or people who are interviewing, we all actually were responsible for creating the old model that we're calling dead right now. So in a way, calling BS on ourselves, but some of it is the fact that the market has changed, the technology has changed, and so it's really not a matter of dead or not. It's like, yeah, it worked in 2012. You are in 2025, and it's not going to work.
So we are talking about why most companies are kind of pretending they have a real go-to-market strategy. And I think some of them are maybe a little bit out of date, or maybe they're not connected, or maybe they're just not paying attention. I don't know. But I think that's kind of what today's conversation is going to be all about, which is what's happened with that playbook. And so let's get into it. Let's just jump in the deep end. Is the funnel dead or is it dying? And like, what happens next?
Well, I think the idea of the traditional funnel is dead. I think funnels are still living, right? Like, people go through it, but the speed at which they go and the way people go about it is different, and which is why the way of traditional funnel, to put that in context, is dead. For example, I ran marketing at Pardot and like all of the marketing automation, and SalesLoft. And as a matter of fact, SalesLoft and Terminus, when we actually had the same investor built right next to each other. SalesLoft building cadences, and we were building, marketing out. Like, it's just crazy. But all of that was expecting a certain behavior and almost forcing the buyer into a certain behavior. You're going to get dripped every 7 days through this unending list of emails. And that sounded cool. Actually, in 2012, it actually sounded cool. Oh, they're going to be perpetually in this thing. And when they're ready, they will just jump in it and buy. But in reality, today, you and I, the way we buy is that we are like, oh, that's interesting. And then we want all the information about it today. And we might make that decision by tomorrow if you're going to buy. And that the whole your 20 drip program week, that's not going to work anymore. You have to be able to give. So I think the traditional idea of how the funnel operates and how the buyers behave, that is certainly dead. And I think we all are experiencing that.
I think we've all seen that graphic. There's various versions of it that looks like a web, an interconnected set of like touch points, customer journey mapping, basically. That kind of really, a few years ago, that started gaining popularity because that kind of linear funnel was just not a realistic, like it just didn't work as well as, to your point, which I think is a good framing. Like, it used to work kind of, it works less well now. And I think even less well sooner than later with AI. Right? I mean, that's really the experience of using AI to find information is radically changing even the discovery process.
Yeah. I mean, I think about this. I have a 15-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. They don't ask me any questions anymore. And I'm like, no, ask me. They just ask Alexa, Siri, ChatGPT, all the questions. And I'm like, they know more than I do in certain areas of life and work and things they want to do. So it actually made me recognize that it's not that I am less important. My job is to create context for them and the wisdom for them to, like, why you should not do that. Yeah, it's great to put a Coke bottle in and go and try to put it in your nose and see what happens. You can do that, but there's a context and wisdom. Like, I've done there, I've gone that path. It's not a great idea, but if you want to do that, do it outside the house, right? Like, so there is that layer to it. So it's the same way I think we all are coming out of our teenage years of marketing and sales and go to market. And many are now getting into adulthood, and we're like, oh my gosh, can you believe, like, you're walking around with boogers on your face the whole time and you didn't get it. And now you're like, oh, the booger, it's bad. You need to clean your face, wash your face. We have that on our face right now. And some people are still walking as if it's not there, but everybody can see it because you can experience companies' marketing and sales, and you're like, that's so 2012. Like I literally say that. Oh, when you really didn't put any effort in this at all.
Yeah, and change is really hard. And I think you had a post I think today actually about organizational structures, marketing and sales, and cutting alignment and that kind of thing. But like who owns that, right? Because I think part of the challenge that we have of still acting like it's 2012 is that there's various levels of experience across the organization, and to some extent, maybe people don't realize how radically it's changed, and change is hard. We don't like change. Like organization, what is that new playbook? Like, can anybody own GTM, or does it need to be kind of a full contact sport now?
Mark, I mean, that was, that was my greatest aha moment, I think, of my last 20 years. When Brian and I wrote the book Move, which was in 2021, and it's about go to market, that was 2021. Go to market wasn't cool. So I get to say that, hey, I wrote about go to market before it was cool in some ways. And that book became a Wall Street Journal bestseller, does really well. And we had 51 questions, and one of the questions was, who owns go to market? And we asked all the known commodities, right? We had Henry from ZoomInfo, Brian Halligan at that time worked for HubSpot, Sequoia, like all P firms, executives who had unicorn exits and all of it. The stark difference in the response was incredible, and it really became the backbone of what we do now in the research and everything we do. Every CEO, without blinking an eye, said, I own go to market. And every CMO or CRO in the same company, when we went to one layer deep, they were all confused about what is go to market. And that was when it was like a moment of like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. The problem is the CEOs, and the reason it's important to figure out owner, I think even a more important question is, well, what is go to market to begin with? And I think that's when light bulbs actually went. I'm like, why are you saying that you as a CEO own go to market? It didn't make sense, because for the most part, in my view, at least at that time, and that might be true for many folks listening even now, my view was, when we launch a product, that's kind of a go to market thing, or launching a campaign, that's a go to market thing. But when I'm talking to the CEOs, they're saying, well, you're opening an office in EMEA or staying in North America. That's a go to market decision. You're buying a company or actually building a product. That's a go to market decision. You're investing in marketing or investing in sales or going partner program. That's a go to market decision. So when you start thinking about it at that level, that's the way the CEOs typically have to think about. They're thinking about go to market 100 times a day. And so they like, we own who else is going to make the decision? Like a CMO can make a decision who's going to make the money or get the money in here. So that the fact that go to market is actually the business. That's ultimately what I learned. Like, go to market is business. And when you think at it from that lens, then it's obvious that, well, who's going to own that? That has to be a CEO or a president if it's a bigger company, or a business unit. Then, so that has been before we even get into the old and the new GTM,
Yeah,
like that context is very important.
that is really interesting, and I think that is a light bulb for me as you're talking about it, because it changes the definition. I mean, you call it whatever you want. Semantics are important, obviously.
Yeah.
What do we call go to market? But the ownership of a go to market decision, like, are we going to open a new office, or expand our franchises, or invest in a new, I don't know, nuclear power plant to power AI tools, whatever that decision is, that's clearly board CEO level decision. But there are other decisions that are go to market decisions, like, what's our sales messaging? What's our website going to look like? That does get delegated down.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, do you see a distinction in large companies versus small companies, startups versus enterprises, public companies versus private companies? Like, or is that problem persistent across all layers of organizations you spoke with?
I would submit to you, Mark, that the differences between successful and unsuccessful companies is very, very stark. All successful companies that Snowflake, HubSpot has said, Zoom, all of they're all. When you look at their EBITDA, you look at their NRR, you look at how the gross margins are actually the business economics. You're not looking at pipeline, and you're not looking at these numbers. So you're looking at business core metrics. And when you start looking at that and say, oh, why are these businesses doing so much better than other businesses? Is there are more CRM platforms, there are more data companies, there are It's not, but their unit economics are so incredibly different, which actually makes the business long lasting. And I'll give you an example. I was talking to a CMO last week, Mark, and it was sad. She posted a week ago that she created on LinkedIn the $25 million pipeline. And she was very excited about it. She wrote, "Our team is badass. We're doing incredible things," and da da da. And I'm like, "Oh, go for you." And last week she got fired or let go, however you want to politically correct put it, right? And when I talked to her about it was obvious to me, and that's why I'm not sharing names and keeping the numbers a little bit more generic. It was obvious to me that she did not know the business. What she knew was marketing. And what she cared about was the pipeline number, and not knowing that, oh, that pipeline actually was, if you actually, you should never be proud of how much pipeline you create. I think it should be the curse word for all of us is actually, do I have pipeline for the right ICP that's creating the greatest customer retention and expansion and NRR for us? Like, we need to layer upon that kind of thinking on it. And the difference between companies who do well and not is literally that they never talk about pipeline. They never talk about, oh, we got 5x pipeline. They would actually go and cry. Why do we need 5x pipeline? Is the first question they will ask, as opposed to more amateur version of that would be like, oh, we created $20 million pipeline. So what? And when she got fired, and when I heard this, and she was blaming the CEO, and I'm like, you just never understood or bothered to understand the business, and that's sad.
My question was going to be, but I don't think it's a question anymore because I think you just answered it, which is, where do most companies think that they have a go-to-market strategy, but don't? But when you layer what you just talked about in terms of who actually owns it and how do you describe the different pieces of it, like that kind of really colors the answer to that question in a really interesting way. And like, in my experience, this MQL, SQL pipeline, qualified pipeline, like all this stuff seems like under the water stuff that like doesn't, like, to your point, like it's not the right conversation to be having. So it's not even that go to market necessarily is broken. It's like we have to define it at what level we're talking about first before we even get into who owns it. I mean, who owns it is obviously the CEO owns it.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think there is this idea, Mark, of false positive. And I think we are all been in the last 10 plus years, and why this traditional funnel is broken is because we have been chasing false positives. Oh, people downloaded our ebooks. Oh, look at the open rate. Oh, look at the click through rate. Oh, look. And we all, I have done it. Like, I will go in board meeting and show the chart and up to the
guilty.
right. Like, I have done all that stuff, and
Yeah.
all the business people. And until I became a business person, I think that's when it clicked. That's when it changed. And anybody listening to this is not a knock on a marketer or saying, I have been there. I've done that for 15 years, where I was so proud of my marketing that I forgot that my marketing is, I've learned really good about marketing the business, but I've never learned in that 15 years, the business of marketing. And there's a huge difference between two. The marketing, the business is, I can do SEO, pay-per-click, design, campaigns, events, all of it. The business of marketing is, you will ask the question, so what? So what do you have
Yeah.
download? So what, you have 20 million pipeline? So what? Like, that question is the only way you get around that is when you actually look at yourself, Mark. I think, and I'm curious your thoughts, as a business owner who happens to be good at marketing or sales or whatever that might.
I agree with you. And I think I've gone through that journey too. Guilty as charged. You're very proud of your marketing. You're very clever with your copywriting. You got great landing pages. You get a bunch of people to engage with that content. And of course, the problem is, how do you translate, as you said, that to business results? But before you get to business results, it has to go through sales first, which is part of this challenge that we have, right? The handoff, the handshake between the sales leader and the marketing leader. Okay, here's a bunch of intent signals. Now go do something with that. And, maybe you're selling enterprise software and it takes 6 to 8 months to close your software. And it takes 15 meetings with 12 different buyers. And marketing wants to raise their hand and say, well, we got them to download a white paper 6 months ago. It like, when you say it out loud, it just seems ludicrous. It's not that the value, right? Like, it's not that the white paper download isn't valuable. It's valuable for whatever it's valuable. But like, the reality is that because there's different departments working on this is what I think is the fundamental break is, like, sales is incented this way, marketing is incented this way. The CEO doesn't care. Like
Yeah.
the CEO's like, I don't like, why are we still having this conversation 25 years later?
Yeah. If I were to give somebody a practical thing, if they're like, oh, okay, well, this is all sounds good and maybe I shouldn't pipeline, but what do like, I've been asked for pipeline. My numbers are tied to pipeline revenue. I would encourage them. This is a cool thing I did at Pardot. I think that was the best thing we did. And I learned so much. The team learned so much and the executives appreciate so much. We used to call this once a month. We used to do something called a show me the money. If anybody loves that movie from Jerry Maguire and all that kind of stuff, like it's one of my favorite all-time movies. It is like the show me the money. So we used to do this. We used to play this episode where marketing actually gets to present to sales, show me the money. And what marketing does is actually doesn't start with, hey, look what we created, pipeline. It actually goes and looks at a closed won deal and pulls up an account and then breadcrumbs it through all the things that actually happened and shows that, hey, look, this so-and-so was here, attended this event, then we sent this email, then they downloaded, then they did a webinar, blah, blah, blah. And then giving them like, hey, you know what? What we found out is like, man, the last 5 deals, every single person has attended a webinar. Could you imagine that? And we'll just show that to the sales team. Guess what? The next week we run a webinar. We never have to convince a soul in the sales team to promote that webinar. They are all promoting because we just flipped it and we did the show me the money thing. It was fun. It was on a Friday. We got pizza for all the sales team. And it wasn't about anything but like, hey, let's celebrate Joe from the sales team. He closed this deal. And then Sally, they did this thing and look at what people did. So it was never a spotlight on marketing. It was all spotlight on them. And that show me the money became the thing that allowed everybody to just see what it is. So the flipping of how you bring the team around, whew, it was so fun.
Genius, honestly, genius. And I think like, how do you break those walls down is a big part of it seems to me like overdue, but like, okay, the playbook is broken. We tried the thing where marketing owns MQLs and sales somehow owns SQLs and then revenue. But the reality is that there is a direct relationship between all of these things happening and the result that you want. I'm curious, how much thinking have you given to kind of the SEO apocalypse, for lack of a better term, and the sort of the oncoming AI brand visibility story? Because I have this theory I've been working on, which is that the old like Don Draper advertising brand people, like they're back. They're zombies, they're reanimated, but they're back and they're back in a big way. And here's the trick is that we all performance marketers, all of us guilty, right? Performance marketers have been for the last 20, 25 years, like focused on direct attribution of activity, click activity, what happened next. Where in a brand world, it doesn't really work like that, right? Like it never did. And I remember back, 20 years ago, it was like, oh my God, Google ads. And now we can measure everything, but brand is much more, you can measure, but it's much more difficult. It's not direct measure. Like, how do you think that shift is impacting like all of those things from just a mentality standpoint?
Yeah. I'll give you an example of this. So when we started GTM Partners, this is 2021, my first gut reaction was, oh, we should have a blog that we write about and we write what we do, because that's what we did in 2012, right? Like, so like in that. But then I looked at the cost of marketing automation and all of it. I'm like, I'm not raising money this go around. I don't want to give money to anybody. I don't even know anybody's going to sign up for this. And who wants to sign up? So all of a sudden money changes how you think about the same idea. Sounds bad when you have to become a business owner. Like that's the point of it. As a business owner, you're going to think different about everything. So at that time, Substack was kind of in the early stages of it, which is an email so you can just write content. And I just started GTM Monday, a research note. Now there are 175,000 people who read GTM Monday. I don't pay a dime for a single email to go out. And every day, at least once a week, I would see all of a sudden 200 people sign up. And I'm like, well, who are these 200 people? Well, what happens is when somebody reads a research note, and we have taken a lot of pride in creating really original research, they will put it on their Slack group. And the Slack group, they will have all these people and they all sign up. All of a sudden, we have like 200 people from IBM reading it. And I know I have their email addresses now. But you think about that for a second. In 2020, if I were to send, and you were to send 175,000 people every single week an email, it will cost me an arm and a leg and everything in between, right? Like, so there is, but now it's for $0. And I think so. So I use that as an example for an SEO perspective, is that to me is the greatest SEO, and all of it is being in the minds and hearts of people. That was the point of it. It was never a point to run Google ads, was not the point of it, right? You could run Google ads even today without SEO. But if you were to do SEO from organic, there is nothing better than actually being the hearts and minds of your people, the people that you're reaching out to. And there's nothing still better than an email if you are really getting out there in front of it. It's obvious. So a lot of people are still missing out, is like they're thinking about SEO and all that stuff, but they're not capturing the right people. They're creating this weird way of people signing up. But our GTM Monday, if anything, is a perfect example of showing that this is how people like to consume information, and not on your blog or you have your sales oriented emails that you send in a unending nurture program. This is our nurture program at its best every Monday that goes out.
And what you're talking about with GTM, with the Substack GTM Monday note, research note, is true brand building, right? You're using your knowledge and research and information to a niche audience who understands and respects it. And you're trusting that there's a connection there. This, like when we write Search Engine Land, we write martech.org, like we're trusting that we found an audience. Now, you can complain the audience isn't big enough. You can complain about a lot of things.
Yeah.
But the truth is that as you build that relationship, you earn that trust, you build that brand. I think the challenge that we have from just on the marketing side of things is that all of the models are built on these very kind of like predictable SEO things, like write 8 pieces of content, get X amount of traffic, Y% it will convert, and therefore we get MRR or whatever the metric is, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the problem is that all of that whole infrastructure is getting blown up right now. I'm talking about Playbook Broken. That whole thing is getting blown up, and all of our kind of brand measurement skills have kind of atrophied over the years. Like CPG does it really well. If you're a Nike marketer, you know exactly how to measure brand, but a B2B brand in this case is going to struggle. Like, wait, we have to do like unaided surveys to get us, like, that doesn't, I just want to measure clicks. And so that's a really big challenge.
Yeah.
I think marketing is in for a rough ride the next couple of years.
No doubt, which is why I think, big takeaway that for me, and every time I'm we're advising companies and CEOs is typically who work with, and but CMOs are obviously a huge part of it. Is like you need to think like a business owner. Like that's the number one thing. And the other part is the rise of this. That's one of the big reasons why there's a shift between the SaaS model of software as a service to service as a software, because the point that all these technology companies have to figure out is that how do I provide value? And the metric has been, oh, our software cost, and I've done that. Like obviously bought out Terminus, that's what it was. That's how we got valuation. Oh, it's $100,000 software that you have to buy. Then you have to have a couple of people. So that's another $200,000, $300,000 that you need to have. They should know how to use the software. And by the way, there's no guarantee, and we need you to sign a 3-year contract. So now you're talking about $500,000 to $1 million investment in a software that may or may not be even used properly. And that's what has been happening in the old playbook 2012. And when you look at it now, the reason services is so much more interesting right now is because that model doesn't make any sense. Because what if technology changes? What if somebody else has a better thing? Why would I sign a 3-year contract? Why would I pay $100,000 that I don't even know? And then I have to hire a couple of people who know that. If they don't know, I lose. So when you really look at it, it again sounds ridiculous. Like, why on earth? If there was an alien coming in right now and they see our purchasing patterns, they would be like, what's wrong with you people? So that's what's happening. We all are now becoming aliens and looking at our own thing and like, that's nuts. We just were in a completely different planet.
Yeah. When we talked last time, you burned that thing into my brain, and I've been kind of paying really close attention to it and thinking about it and watching what's going on in the space, both here at SEMrush and other places. And there's a real, I feel a little whipsawed because, back until now, right? It's up until now, from an investment standpoint, from a business model standpoint, SaaS was like, let's just automate everything. Services is almost a bad word. In fact, services was a bad word for many years. And now all of a sudden, the software is more complex. You're absolutely right. Technology is changing really quickly. I think this is a massive sea change that I don't want to overstate, but I don't think I can understate it really that much, given what's happening with, the rise of MCP servers, the rise of AI, the rise of vibe coding and other ways to build interfaces. Like, you're talking about a very different world, and it's happening very, very quickly, which I think is part of the challenges from a leadership team standpoint. Like if you're, a senior leadership team at a SaaS software company who've grown up through an age where we don't do services, like we actively don't do them,
Yeah.
to all of a sudden flip where actually we can't close deals without services anymore.
Yep. Yep.
And we have to build that program, and it's going to blow up our financials, or we're going to have to partner and have expense. To me, that seems like a really like almost a sea change moment.
Yeah. And it actually makes sense. So what we are seeing in our research is companies, CEOs, executives are more than willing to pay 10K a month to a service provider to provide a certain specific sniper sort of services. Hey, I need to implement ABM. Now, why in the world, with all the experience in the world it's out there today, would somebody hire a full-time ABM person who probably would do ABM part-time because he or she would be in like 50 other meetings that has no business in, right? So instead, the CEOs would they would hire us to help them with thinking about, let's say, strategy. And then they will hire a fractional person to say, just execute, you're an ABM expert, or, do this thing and report on this. So I'll pay you for outcomes. And outcomes doesn't even have to be revenue. It just implement the darn ABM program. There are so many businesses that have all these tools and people, but they still haven't taken it off the ground because they just don't know. Instead, somebody has done it 100 times. Why wouldn't you use that? So if you start looking at it from a unit economics perspective, it makes lot of sense. So it's not like companies are not spending. And I'm on this journey of bursting this myth because we're a $6 million business in 3 years as a services business. And I did not know. I was always a software guy. Like I hated the idea of a service, but it makes all the sense in the world because that's people are ready to pay 10, 20K a month. They was tried for 3 months, let's say, and they said, okay, I spent 50K, 60K on this thing. This didn't work. They're more than happy to take that versus to sign up on a full 100K contract, 3 people and all those kind of things. So I think if you really take a step back, that's literally was the other part, Mark. I don't know if you're noticing this, is as we are talking about, we have a lot of tech companies that are our clients and customers and do research with them. What's interesting is I don't think, my prediction is, Mark, that in next 6 months, by the time we get into 2026, most of these companies who are selling 100K plus deals are either going to vanish like really rapidly, their valuation and everything, or they would be completely reinvented where they no longer are doing the way they built. And then it's extremely hard. Like you said, change is hard. Man, if you're a 10-year-old company who are built on this idea of enterprise AE and SDR and 100K contracts and 3-year agreements, your whole infrastructure is built on that. How in the world are you going to change? And that is hard. I'm seeing that, but they're not seeing that at the speed, but it's going to hit them at renewal like anything.
Yeah, that's classic disruption. You have the model, it works. You see down market signs. Oh, look at all these little players. They have little widgets and stuff, and they'll never catch up to us. But I think what's changed is what's changed, which is to say, software service is changing to services software because people want outcomes. I think, when I heard Zuckerberg talk about the future ad platform where he goes, you're just going to give us your credit card, and you're just going to tell us who your customers are, and we'll just get them for you.
Yeah.
That was right after the conversation you and I had. I was like, wow, that is kind of a nuts thing to say, but also, of course, it makes a lot of sense. Like, I think your ABM example is a really good one. Like, you're right. An ABM person in a corporation and their team is 50% of the time is just in meetings, not actually doing ABM. So is that simply the answer to what replaces it? Services now sort of come online. You charge a premium for high-end services. So maybe margins get squeezed a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're still running a really profitable, good business on a piece of software that you built. Or is something else changing given agents, synthetic buyers, automated research? Like connect that dot, because that's a dot that I spend a lot of time thinking about, and my brain is starting to wrap around it, but it still hurts.
I'm with you. So to finish this point, I wanted to give people a view into why this change is so significant, is because this is the same as what happened with Blockbuster and Netflix.
Great example.
They had an opportunity to buy Netflix. They looked at Netflix as saying, I don't think anybody, and overnight it changed everything. And it's like everybody should go watch that documentary or movie. There's so much on this thing. It is the classic state. Nobody feels that pain in the moment, but all these tech companies are going to feel that pain. And that's that. So
Let me ask you, let me just, before you
yeah,
keep going, let me ask you, because like it strikes me that like Blockbuster, I mean, there's a bunch of different takes on that story. And I think at the end of the day, it is exactly what it seems like. They disregarded disruption, but it wasn't like they didn't have the people, right? Blockbuster did have a streaming service.
yeah,
They knew what was going on. I tend to think about this like people are the failure, not like the systems aren't the problem. It's somebody at the top just was like, I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk it. It's too risky. Um, is that, am I on the right track? Because I feel like there's a human element here that is the part that fails. It's not like we have smart people. Every company has smart people. There's
yeah,
analysts. There's people that can read Harvard Business Review. Like I can read. I know Clayton Christensen. I watch all his videos. I've seen him speak. Like I get it. But like at the end of the day, there's a gut check, which is like, do we really believe AI in this case is going to blow up everything? Do we really believe
yeah.
services is software? And truthfully, like the investment to switch a SaaS business from a software to a services front end is not insignificant.
It's
Like you could tank your quarterly earnings
yeah,
like that.
yeah. And that's what's it's at the balance of it's. I think it's 100% ego thing.
Interesting.
100% ego thing. Has nothing to do with anything. This is no different than when a bunch of people had horses and Henry Ford rolled in the four-wheeler, right? And saying that I got horses, man. I got horses. Like, what are you talking about? This thing can't go anywhere, right? It's 100% ego. Nothing different than Blockbuster. Nothing different than when the first light bulb happened. Like, it's the same exact, and we're just seeing that in our lifetime, which is the most exciting
By the
part.
way, twice,
Yeah,
because when the internet came online in 94 through 2000, there was the same, no one will ever buy things on the internet. E-commerce is not a thing. Like, and you're going, wait a minute, like there's no friction here. It's easy.
yeah,
I don't have to leave the house. And yet same thing, right? Ego. Like I was talking to a guy earlier today about Sears. He worked at Sears back in the day. I mean, Sears was it. Sears was it. They were the leader. Kmart, Kmart, was rocking and rolling, and they just missed the boat in so many
yeah.
different ways that it's interesting to say ego, because I appreciate you saying that. It's a hard thing to say because it feels like an attack on people, and it kind of is in a way, but it's also like, let's like to your point about growing up and running a business, like, hey, we're business people. Like, what is the decision-making process here? Is it my ego? Do I have the maturity to say, is this my ego talking, or is this reality? And knowing the distinction ends
Yeah.
up being probably the whole game, right?
It is though. I mean, being on the other side, I think if I were running a software company today, I would have a lot of ego. I'm like, we build a great product. We build like we're in that little bubble, right? Of very, very loved people. They're just all nodding every single time. But it's in reality, they're saying, man, you're full of it. you know? So it's the same thing. And fortunately, we are at the forefront of a lot of the research we're doing. And like, oh my gosh, they are not willing to see it. And it took me about 6 months, Mark, to recognize it is not the smarts. It is literal human ego
Yeah.
that's coming in between. They're making because they have to do a size. They almost have to start the company over again. Too hard for too long to be where they are. And nobody wants to leave the throne, man.
We built this model in our heads of SaaS, which is, there's PwC and Deloitte, they'll handle the services where we just get the fat margins and we just run our software, and we don't want to do that other thing. And I think it's not really even rebuilding. It's almost like what you're comfortable with what you do. I'm not like, there are a lot of software people that are not services people. In fact, most successful software people are not necessarily services people. There's a different mindset. I've worked on both sides, so I know. And that's really interesting because that really colors the decision making. Let's pivot just briefly to AI, because
Yeah.
AI further exacerbates the issue. We're
Yeah.
in a moment now where we're saying things like AI agents are coming online and they're going to change the buyer experience. Some people buy it, some people don't buy it, but let's just pretend for a minute that it's real. And in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, all of us are going to have buying agents in our hands. What happens then?
Yeah, I think that it connects to the earlier question of like, well, what are the change? And I look at it threefold. The first change is this idea what we talked about, which is We're just flipping it on its head, and it's a services model. You can have the technology and then services behind is going to flip to services and technology behind. That's what AI really is all about. At the end of the day, it's behind the scenes. So services model. The second is teams are going to just shrink. So we're going to see a huge amount of fractionals available to do it. Now, the problem with fractionals is they have never been a business owner, so they don't realize that they have to be their own SDR and they have to do all these things, and that's why they're going to struggle without a process and a system. But ultimately, what people are willing to pay, and we see that every day, 5K, 10K a month, and no problem for most companies, even early stage startups, to pay somebody with lots of gray hair to say, tell me what to do here, and you could just do it. We both have it, so we get called. And I think if people can, in their, quite frankly, with 10, 15, 20 years of experience and more, you should really go after the fractional part of it and own and start working on building a book of business, because you would be what you have is what none of these other folks have in their earlies. Is you have the experience, you have the balance score, you have seen how bad the funnel can go, you can be ahead of it. So in many ways, that combination is services, and then they're looking in fractionals are going to be much more in demand than full-time, which is we all are so used to W2 that we don't understand 1099. We feel it's risky, but that will be, you will make more money as a 1099 person than W2 can ever make you. And I think people are going to just find out the hard way if they don't lean into it. We can go into that, by the way, and deeper in a minute. And the third one is, we talk about AI. Every company is gonna have their own LLM. So there is no logging into any tools in the near future. And I don't know how quickly that can happen. Today, the way ChatGPT works is it just knows what it knows and what you feed into it. But it doesn't know what's happening within your Salesforce or all of these things unless you fully connect everything. And that hasn't happened fully yet. Most people are not using it at that level. Everybody's using it at individual level. The future is where nobody even would know what CRM tool or nobody's going to log into anything. You at 2 a.m. in the morning, you might wake up and like, what happened with that North America pipeline and that sales? You would just ask your ChatGPT internal LLM, and it will go get the data, give you the report, help you think through it. And you're like, you know what, that doesn't make sense. And you can create and it would start anybody in the company will have access to all of this and start using it to build things. So this combination of services model with fractional, and every company ultimately acting like an AI with no interfaces, no UI, no login, another screen and change your password of the world, is where I believe the future is going.
And what's interesting, I'll pick out just one part of that and we'll move on. One part of it that's really interesting to me, I had a conversation with somebody at a well-known software company we all know and love. And he was talking about the moats that they currently have. One of the moats is they have a great UI. They are known for we'll protect the innocent. They're known for a great UI. And he's like, it's gone, done. There's no UI. And so now one of the main selling points, which is we have an easy to use interface, is just gone because the company has connected the data to the back end. And all of a sudden, UI is not the issue. UI is, there's a larger question here that you bring up, which is, what is UI in the future? Is it just all talking and multimodal interfaces with data? Probably.
There is no UI. I really admit to you that in the next month or 2 months or 3 months, like it's as fast as that, depending upon how fast companies want to go. See, everything that we know, there is no more like, man, I wish my sales rep logged their deals. Like there is no such thing. Everything will be documented. Everything will be there because it should just do it when your email will be connected. So your email will capture all the stuff that needs to be captured. And the ChatGPT, that's LLM, that's going to sit on top of it, should be able to give you all that. You never have to worry about, am I logged or not? And this is one of the most awesome conversations I had with Yamini, now the CEO of HubSpot. And this will be the 9th year I'll be speaking at Inbound, and we talk every year with Brian and on what's happening latest. As a research analyst firm, we kind of share our thoughts, they share theirs, so it's kind of fun. And the last conversation I had, she said something that really stuck with me. She said that we no longer have the excuse of we don't have enough time. And it made me think about, isn't everybody overwhelmed? Like we are like running with our heads cut off, and she's like, yeah, but we no longer have the excuse that, oh, we didn't have enough time to follow up on all the leads that came by the booth. That would make no sense whatsoever, because you should have a system that's already set up to do all that stuff. Or we are only going to focus on these target accounts. We said all these things because we had a limited bandwidth and limited way of looking at it. But if you implement the right AI process and a system, you would never have to. It's all ultimately is going to be a workflow, where everything is a absolute workflow for you.
We've broken at least 5 playbooks today. We've rebuilt a couple. Rebuilt a couple of them. What you just said there is both an operational playbook, an individual playbook, organizational playbook of data flows, processes that now get collapsed, and not just collapsed, but then when you throw a powerful next generation LLM on top of it, become extremely actionable and probably automated with agents.
Right.
So now all of a sudden you're segmented customers, first time customers, return customers, VIP customers, right? You're getting personalization at a level that, we talked about 20 years ago, the one-to-one personalization movement, which never really happened at scale. Now all of a sudden becomes not just at scale, but down to whatever level you choose to tune
Yeah.
the experience, both at the customer and the employee level, right? Like that's a lot of breaking of playbooks. We could talk for hours. I know we've done this before and it's like, it ends up being long. So let me jump to the last part of the conversation. So obsessed with how really successful, and you are a very successful person, kind of force yourself to get through barriers. How do you, when you wake up in the morning, like, God, there's something I don't want to do. So as a founder, as a marketer, GTM thinker, like when was the last time you had to kill one of your favorite ideas? And how did you force yourself to do that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, two-part into this. One, I've just realized that if I start my day with meetings, I'm no good. I'm like the worst person to hang around with. My family will tell you, people would tell. So I've just learned to manage my calendar where I have no meetings until 10 or 11 in the morning. That's when I do my best work, my best thinking, my best research. And now with my friend ChatGPT, only that person is allowed to talk to me. So that has made me very productive in everything, because I'm so happy for the rest of the day because I did what gives me energy. So that's just one. Just if you can in this day and age, protect your time and figure out your energy. I think you would be surprised how much more you can accomplish. That's one. The second thing, we for the last 2 years, 2.5 years, we did, and you know this, Mark, we've been doing roadshows. We did about 12 roadshows a year. So every month we'll be in a different city, sharing the gospel of go-to-market, doing the 15 go-to-market problems, and just creating what I knew the best way to create a movement around anything is to be where people are and different people. And when you spend 3-4 hours with them, they become ambassadors of the thing you are, and you learn a lot. And so it was a forcing function that law helped us every time we need to have a new research, new ideas, meaning new people. And we trained on our go-to-market operating system over 2,000 people in a matter of 2 years, just in person, beyond online, that's separate, but just in person. And so that, like, this year, we killed that sacred cow, if you will, because we're like, you know what, we have spread the message, and we got a great cohort of people who love it and are sharing it now. And this year we're doing 0 roadshows because all I'm spending time is doing great research, and then I'm speaking at other 10 or 12 other events. So it's not that we're not going out and speaking, but I'm not doing on top of our own events. And it has freed up so much, because then I had a whole team that used to run events, and I didn't have to, and we hired people to do it. We don't have to do that. So it's literally just me, Brian, 2 EAs that we have, and a couple of AI agents that run a $6 million business. And I have never felt more free in my entire life than now when it comes to work.
This is the third time this has come up this week. So the universe is speaking to me through Sangram. Manage your energy.
Yeah.
Run towards the light. Like, do the things that bring you energy. Don't do the things that drain your energy. That's a great answer. Fascinating story. Thank you so much for your time, Sangram. I love talking to you. Every time I talk to you, I'm like energized and just Feel great. I'm just looking at the notes that I jotted. Define GTM. We talked about the challenges of ego, which I think is amazing. Show me the money. I just saw that the movie was on TV and I just had to turn on at that scene. That scene is so good.
It's
It's
so
just
good, man. So good.
so good. And then he leaves and he's like, who's coming with me? And there's like,
Man, it is, but it's like one of those. I watched it with my son, so it's kind of fun.
we talked about thinking like a business owner, which I think is really great advice, especially for really experienced, some myself included, marketers who've been around a long time. Like flip that switch, think like a business owner. We talked about Netflix, which is always fun to think back about what that happened, about cars and horses, and manage your calendar, manage your energy. Just incredible. Sangram, where can people find you? Where do they dial you up? Where do they connect?
I'll highly encourage everybody to do a couple of things. One, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, we actually in my feature section, we just create 3 courses for free for people to give us. We get asked all the time, how do I become a fractional business owner? Or how do you map your entire go-to-market on a slide in the Move Book companion course? So we just made them into courses that people can just go sign up. We get hundreds of people literally every day signing through that. So go and do that. So you just up level. We want to give that as a gift for people to up level their thinking. And the second thing is we write original research every Monday. It's called GTM Monday on Substacks. People look for it. We would be hard to miss.
I've been a subscriber for a long time, probably since you started it. I just started my own Substack, which is a good way to wrap this up by saying, thank you so much for watching Playbook Broken. You can find us on YouTube, martech.org, all the audio channels, basically everywhere. If you have comments for myself or for Sangram, feedback, whatever, leave a comment, find me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.